ThekarmicDF.
What is up, besties? It's your girl, the Karmic DF, back to you again with another video. This time we're going to talk about what is shadow work, how does it actually happen to us, what's really going on from more of a psychological approach, and then just tying it all in so we can understand the bigger picture so that we don't gaslight ourselves into not feeling our feelings, so that we can finally be released from the things that hold us back from living our best life. So if you are spiritual and you've heard the term shadow work and you really want to delve into yourself to have the best version of the life that you want to live, then this video should help you. That is the goal. Please like this video if it does help. Leave a comment down below for future videos. Hit subscribe and hit that notification bell. And as always, let's get into it. So essentially, shadow work, what it basically is your subconscious coming to your conscious mind so that you can finally go, oh, this thing from the past is still inhibiting me from making better decisions for my life moving forward. So let's start with an example because it's always easier that way. Let's say that you are someone who practices manifestation, right? So maybe you did a new moon manifestation, you wrote down what it was that you wanted on a piece of paper, you burned it in the full moon or new moon, whatever, manifestation. I have another video for that if you don't know what that is. But basically it's just you writing down and declaring to the universe what it is that you want. And in order to get what it is that you want, you have to first go through the shadow work, because we'll show with this example. Say you're looking for someone that you want the love of your life, right? Like healthy, unconditional love that, you know, that you dream about, you watch in movies, right? And you go to do that manifestation. And then all of a sudden, a couple days later, maybe right after you do it, you're suddenly thinking about your childhood and how your father impacted your life and how your mother impacted your life, and how now you're starting to look at your childhood and what kind of people you were drawn to in friendships and what kind of people you began to develop crushes on moving forward. And you're looking back and you're like, why am I so focused on the past? I'm trying to bring in new love. Well, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it, right? And so what shadow work essentially is it's bringing up to the forefront things inside of you that you've batted off in the past, but now you're ready to kind of look at with a different set of eyes, more so. And so in order to attract somebody who is healthy for you, you have to be healthy for yourself, at least to some extent. There's only so much growth you could do alone, but you have to embody what it is that you're looking for. So with shadow work, you're going to experience this without meaning to. During full moons, it's pretty prominent. When planets go into retrograde, like, see this video whenever, it'll still apply, but currently Venus is retrograde, right? And so right now, what we're seeing with the collective is a lot of people reevaluating their romantic relationships, because Venus is known for it's like the planet of love. And so with it being retrograde, when planets go retrograde, we go internal. So then a lot of times we think it's struggle, but in reality, it's us reevaluating things that don't serve us anymore. Again, going back to shadow work, that's really what it is. It's just you going, I never really looked at that from a different set of eyes. I never really dealt with that severe situation that really hurt me. And so in order to attract someone that's healthy for you, you first have to dive into what didn't serve you. What was it that you allowed from the past that didn't fit you? What was it that got you to, it's basically you re-asking yourself from a less biased place, because you're no longer in that emotion, right? You're not stuck in the trauma of that event or those events. You've now moved on from it, but energetically, it's still stored in the body, right? Because science has proven energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So if you're pushing down emotions, eventually that stuff's got to come up. And so that's what shadow work is. It's kind of like, if you're not a person that's spiritual, it's those annoying thoughts that pop up into your mind. And you're like, why am I thinking about this fight that I had with my parents when I was 13? It's really not that big of a deal. But in reality, it's your subconscious going, I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to address it. And I'm ready to heal the wound. And that is what you're going to be doing through all steps of shadow work. Because remember, the growth is not linear. Your journey is not linear. And so you will go through ebbs and flows of, oh, this hurts. I need to cry it out. I got to purge. Okay, now I've addressed it. What is this teaching me about myself? And then you learn that, and then you move forward. And so, especially with relationships, what you're going to see if you're trying to manifest a healthy one is if you are someone who attracts unhealthy dynamics, then you're going to slowly learn how to remove yourself from it, because it's got to come in stages. Think about how much life you've lived up until this point. You're not going to move on from something heavy overnight, right? And so what you're doing is you're peeling off the layers of limiting beliefs. If you think that you're not worthy of unconditional love, but you're trying to manifest it, then we've got to delve into what made you believe that you weren't worthy of unconditional love, right? And so then you go on to realize that maybe you were bullied in high school, and you didn't really take it that seriously back then because you pushed it down to survive, and now it's coming up for you because that has now become part of the inner critic in your brain telling you that you are not enough. And in order to get rid of that voice that's telling you that you are not enough, you have to go back to figure out where that voice came from so that you could kind of confront it like eye to eye, except you're not really in the situation. You're just reevaluating it from a new pair of eyes and going, okay, so I've held on to this for a long time, and think of it as like weight that you've had on your back up until this moment. And now you're going, okay, I'm ready to realize that, yeah, this event happened and it hurt, but it also doesn't have to be the blueprint of my life, right? And so what you're essentially doing is saying, I'm not going to subconsciously carry these negative beliefs about myself and those around me, because I know that that's not true. I know that I'm inherently worthy. I know that not all people are bad, right? And so I'm going to let this part of me go. But in order to do that, you have to address the emotions that you probably didn't address when you were in the thick of the pain as you were going through it, because we learn to survive and to cope over really addressing what those wounds are and what they are telling us about ourselves. We don't, if you've watched my prior videos where I say, what is this person teaching me about myself? What is this event teaching me about myself? What can I learn about myself from this? We often give our power away because we didn't know any better. And so we go, that person did this to me, and this person broke my heart, and that person. But in reality, it takes two, right? And the only person you have control over is yourself. So essentially what you're doing is you're bringing back control to yourself in all aspects of your life. I know that not everybody tries to manifest, right? And these things just kind of happen to us and we don't expect it. Well, that would be its whole separate video. But you also got your soul contract. So whatever it is you came in to deal with in this lifetime, you're going to have the soul mates, people in your life that you're meant to meet that are supposed to trigger things that come out within you. So a lot of this is not in your control, which is why shadow work feels so overwhelming, because it's kind of like you've been avoiding it your whole life. Like looking back, I remember a lot of times where something would pop up from nowhere and it was from years ago, and I'm like, what am I doing? This is not important. And I just stuff it back down, right? Because we gaslight ourselves. It's really easy to do that. And so what you're now doing is you are making the unconscious conscious. You are now realizing that, hey, there is a pattern here that I keep repeating, and I don't want to repeat that pattern anymore. And so be proud of yourself, because now you're at a place in time where you are ready to accept what has happened, because you're ready to transmute it into something beneficial for you. So going back to the relationship thing, right? You want something that's unconditional, and maybe you're someone like me that dated a lot of people that only gave you breadcrumbs to keep you around. And now you're like, okay, I'm first going to go through the stage. And it's kind of like grief. It's like going through the stages of grief to hit the point of acceptance. It's recognizing your own trauma, your own pain, and going, okay, now I'm first acknowledging it. And so you're going to be sad at first, right? You're going to cry it out and be like, how did this happen to me? How did I accept breadcrumbs? Why did I let this? And you're going to go through all of those emotions, right? And then you're finally going to purge the sadness. Then you're going to get to a stage of anger, because again, you're still not done with this topic. It's a heavy one that's been in you for a long time, right? You've been settling for less than you deserve up until this moment, and now you're finally reevaluating it. And so you got to go through the sadness. But then after that, you got to go through the anger, because then you're like, oh, okay, now that I've cried it all out, now I realize my worth. And so now I realize, oh my God, I was allowing people to talk to me the way that they did. How dare I? How did I allow you to think that you could treat me that way? And you're going to go through that stage as well, the anger stage, which is honestly kind of a fun one. If you're somebody who let people steamroll all over you, the anger phase is kind of fun. Don't take it out on people, you know what I mean? Realize that it's just emotions that you're going through, and you're not crazy. I need you to like hone in on that. You are not crazy for having emotions about something from 10 years ago, 3 years ago, however long it is for you. It's just about now is the time that you're ready to address it. So be proud of yourself. Don't think you're crazy. Be proud, because what you're doing is you're like changing your DNA almost, because think about it. You're subconsciously going from emotionally unavailable to emotionally unavailable to emotionally unavailable, right? And now you've decided, I want true love. And in order to do that, you have to go, well, why did I accept emotionally unavailable? Why did I accept someone who's verbally abusive to me? Why did I accept someone who took me for granted? And then you got to go through that process within yourself, because again, the power lies within you, and you've been giving that power away. Because if you're someone who dated someone who's unavailable, right, you're trying to prove yourself, you're trying to, you know, prove that true love exists, and so you're trying to overgive to them. Or maybe you're on the polar opposite where love scares you, so you didn't give enough, and now you have to address why it is that you didn't give your all, or why you held some back. You're coming home to yourself and to your own power, and realizing that the power was always within you. And shadow work just kind of like fast pace that. Like, I'm seeing like a road runner almost, like you don't even realize it's happening, and all of a sudden it's like that shit's cleared. So allow those emotions to come up as they are coming up, because it's your body saying, I want more for my life. But you can't start a new chapter of your life without addressing the past, right? You can't go into a new healthy relationship when you're like scorned from the past behaviors, right? If I was trying to date someone who is incredible, but my last relationship, which was last month, was someone who was verbally abusive and, you know, just whatever form of toxic you've dealt with, right? You can't get into an unconditional love without being like, I'm scared, and so now I'm overanalyzing things, right? You're not ready for unconditional love yet. And so you've got to go through those stages of grief on your own, so that you're not projecting those wounds onto someone that could be a really solid person for you. And remember, in the past relationships, again, it takes two. So that's how you bring your power back to you when you're going through this shadow work, because you're going to be sad about the things that you accepted. It's going to happen. But as you get through that stage, you're going to start to realize, well, I was always in control because I said yes to the person that gave me breadcrumbs. I said yes to being stuck in a situationship for over a year. I said yes to someone who was emotionally abusive and took advantage of me, and I allowed it to happen in the name of love. I said yes. I did that. And it's taking back your power so that you never allow that shit to happen again. Excuse my language, but let's get real here. When we settle for less than we deserve, and then we pretend that it didn't happen, and then we keep repeating the pattern, and that we don't understand why we're consistently in this pattern, well, there's only one factor that hasn't changed, and it's us, right? And so that is essentially what's going on with shadow work, is we are taking accountability with what parts we have control over, which is most of it. If you don't want to be in a relationship that doesn't satisfy your needs, then what are you doing, right? But we can make excuses for people so easily, because look at how hard we are on ourselves, and look at how we see ourselves in like 360 definition, you know what I mean? Like we see ourselves more than we see anyone else. And so it's a lot easier to make excuses for other people's behaviors. It's a lot easier to drag on a situationship that should have never happened to begin with. It's a lot easier to drag out a relationship that you know is toxic, because that's a lot easier than walking away, because it's something you know, it's something you've already established. And as inherent beings, as humans, we don't like change. And so, but that's the only thing that's constant in our life is change. And so what we're doing is we're rewiring, fundamentally, we're rewiring our brain of what we will allow, what we won't allow. And in order to do that, you got to purge the old shit. You can't keep that on. Like, I just keep seeing a backpack full of rocks on my back. And it's like, shadow work is you taking a rock out and you going, oh, that hurt. All right, I've dealt with it. I've addressed it. Throw it. Now you're a little bit lighter, right? You're still going down that journey. You're on that path of life, right? But then, oh, something else is coming to the forefront. We're going to take that rock out. We're going to look at it. Yeah, that hurt. Okay, what is this teaching me about myself? Okay. All right, I don't need it anymore. Boom. And now it's a little bit less weight. And now you're feeling good within your life. And now you're feeling good within yourself. That is what shadow work is. It's, like I said in the Spiritual Awakening video, it's like mental health healing on steroids, because you're the one that's doing the work. You're the one that's like, hands on the ground, let's figure it out. It's really diving into yourself and figuring out your own patterns so that you can be in control of your own life moving forward, and realizing that the power was always within you. So what is shadow work? It's basically your subconscious bringing to your awareness the painful moments in your past that were either too much for you to handle at that point in time, or you didn't have the tools, and so you pushed it down. Now you're in a stage of life where you can basically reevaluate that moment from a healthier set of eyes, a healthier mindset, to better understand from a bird's eye perspective why that moment had happened. what it ultimately taught you about the world or the people around you, and thus what limiting beliefs you may have around yourself or other people or events, etc., depending on what's coming up for you. It's your soul saying, I'm ready to choose me and move forward to a life that ultimately makes me happy. And I want to choose myself. And so when we do that, we release the power that we let other people have over us, because in reality, the only people that we have control over is ourselves. And so who do we want to be moving forward? And what does that look like? And if what we are acting like today doesn't equate to the life that we want to live up to, then it's up to us to change the patterns that we give off. You know, are you someone who wants to be really healthy, but you are constantly eating processed foods and drinking caffeine, guilty, drinking caffeine, drinking sodas over water, eating McDonald's over vegetables and fruits? You know what I mean? It's you going, how do I get from point A to point B? And now you have an idea of what point B looks like. You want to be this version of yourself, right? Well, in order to get to that version, and but mind you, this is where spirituality kind of plays its game here. You've decided that this is who you want to be. And so now the universe is going to throw that shadow work at you. So the moment you're like, I want better for my life, the universe is going to go, I heard you loud and clear. Now we got to do that work that we kind of avoided in the past. You know what I mean? And so that's when shadow work kind of comes up. It comes up during full moons. It comes up when planets are retrogrades. And it comes up whenever it freaking needs to, because you may just be ready for it. You may be ready for the life that it is that you want. You know, maybe you want to be healthy, but you couldn't really justify getting up because you were more the type, I mean, during the lockdown, especially, guilty of it. It was really hard for me to want to be active because, you know, I'm working from home, I'm barely going out. And so it was a lot easier for me to just sit down and do nothing. But like I've said in prior videos, it takes 21 days to make something a habit. And so in order to get to be the person you want to be, you have to go backwards, because in order to be the healthy version of you, you have to understand why you couldn't get it right to begin with. And that's essentially what shadow work is. It's bringing to the forefront the things that you didn't think were that big of a deal, but all of those little things, they're kind of like bricks, right? It's a bricks building up a foundation, and now you realize that that foundation, it's got mold, it's not good for you, you can't live in that house, it's not healthy, right? And so what you're doing is you're tearing down the foundation that you've already set that was based on things that you no longer resonate with. So thinking that you're not good enough, thinking that you can't have a job that makes you happy, thinking that you can't have a relationship that makes you happy, thinking that you can't live the life that you want to. Those are all limiting beliefs that your inner critic has been constantly telling you. You don't even know where that voice came from, right? And so shadow work comes, and it's like a giant tidal wave that's going to crash that foundation that you had, because it doesn't resonate with you anymore. You want more, you want to be more, you want to do more. And in order to do that, you got to go backwards. You got to see, why wasn't I doing it before? Why couldn't I put that effort into myself before? Where did this come from? What can this teach me about myself? It's all connected. You know, you could have had one teacher in 4th grade, because this is reminding me of something that happened to me. This one doesn't really count, but we'll throw it in there anyway. I had one teacher that told me in 4th grade that Santa wasn't real, and that messed me up. And from 4th grade on, I was like, there's no magic in this world. There's no, you know what I mean? And like, I kind of like fell apart. And at one point, that memory came back to me because I didn't like holidays. There was a big reason behind that. My family's not together. A lot of my family's already passed away. It's just, it's hard for me to enjoy holidays. But again, I hadn't realized why I didn't like holidays. I made it my personality. I was like, I don't like Christmas. That's just how they get you to spend a ton of money, which it is. It's true. I'm not wrong in that. But also, I couldn't get excited about the family part of it, because buried in my subconscious, which I wasn't realizing, was the pain as a child of not having her parents together, of not having that holiday that all the Hallmark movies showed us, right? And so instead of acknowledging that I had that pain towards holidays, I instead made it my personality to be this like edgy girl that didn't like Christmas because she was against the system. And I totally believe that to be true. Now 2 things are true. I still believe that to be true because it's 100%. Think about sales. If you've worked in retail, you know that after the summertime, so just saying. But that wasn't the truth. That wasn't the real reason why I didn't like holidays. It was because it hurt. It was because it reminded me of what I didn't have. It reminded me of not having that mother, father, opening the gifts Christmas morning, everybody lovingly around the tree. I didn't have that. And so it made me sad and it made me angry. But in order to survive as a child, I just pushed that down. And then when I got older, I turned it into a personality trait. And in reality, see where that broken foundation started? It started all the way back, right? All the way in the younger years when my brain was still developing, and seeing that for me, Christmas didn't mean love and light. For me, Christmas meant, you know, one of my parents had to work really freaking hard to make sure that it mattered enough. And for me, it was more about the connection, and I didn't have that, and I was watching it in TV, and so I buried that so deep within me. And that's what you're going to learn, is that you've buried a lot of stuff in you, and you've made this foundation of who you believe you are. But in reality, a lot of those beliefs about who you are beliefs built on the foundation of things that you couldn't deal with or control back when you were younger. And so now you're going, I can control it. I can figure out who I am. I can be the best version of myself. But in order to get there, I got to stop repeating the past. And so I've got to take a look at the past from an honest lens, where I'm being honest with myself. I'm taking control over where I've gotten it wrong so that I don't repeat it. I was the asshole in not liking Christmas. I was semi at fault for dating emotionally unavailable men because I allowed them to treat me that way. I didn't kick them straight to the curb right away. And again, it's not a point of who's at fault, who's not at fault. It's not about that. It's just gaining control over your life again. And that is exactly what shadow work does. It helps you release all of those limiting beliefs that makes you believe that you're this version of you. And now you can go on to become the version of you that you love, that makes more sense to you, that can bring your life more everyday joy instead of you just kind of surviving and going through the motions like we're so used to doing. It's being more conscious. It's being more mindful. It's being more present. It's realizing all of the good things instead of hyper fixating on all of the bad things. But in order to do that, we've got to let all of that stuff that we've accumulated over the years come out and come through us so that we can better understand the world around us, why people behave the way they do, and ultimately why we behave the way we do. So that is the summary of shadow work. If you have questions about the hows, the whys, the terminology, whatever, let me know down in the comments, and I'll give you a part 2. Of course, always let me know. But basically, this was just to kind of give you a better understanding of what's going on, the whole process, so that as you're going through it, you can remind yourself, this is good. This is a good thing. I'm crying because I'm finally ready to release this. I'm angry because I'm finally realizing that I matter too. I'm going through all of these chaotic, like I'm seeing like a hurricane of emotions, but at the end of this, it's no longer going to drag me down. Now I can enjoy Christmas with just being alone. I can enjoy it now, and I can watch the movies and be festive. Now there is no way in hell I will date an emotionally unavailable man. It's never going to happen because I love myself way too much. So if some guy comes to me with crumbs, I'm going to laugh. It's never going to be an option. And that's because I dug into, why am I accepting these behaviors? Why am I acting this way? Why am I acting out? Why am I accepting less than? It's what you're doing is you're essentially going into your brain, digging out. What I'm seeing is like an attic and like a box of pictures. And it's like you looking at the memories of your life, of the past, and going, okay, but is that what I want in the future? And once you can do that, the old shit comes up like a tidal wave, and that's okay because that's what's got to happen. But at the end of it, you're going to come home to the version of you that you want to be, a version of you that makes sense to you, a version of you that's healthy because you've chosen yourself. So that is what shadow work is. It is just purging out old shit that doesn't resonate with you anymore so you could be on a frequency of a version of you that you love and admire and that you really want to be in order to live a life that is exciting, that is fulfilling, that is emotionally, it's just joy is the best way I can describe it. When you work through the shadow work, you will have more day-to-day joy. And isn't that what we all want? So I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know if you need a part 2. Let me know if you need me to dive into parts of this that I've mentioned. But I'm going to leave it at that. I love you guys so much. Be proud of yourselves if you're going through shadow work. It simply means that you're leveling up, and that's amazing. And don't be hard on yourself when you're having these days. Honor it. Let yourself cry. Let yourself lay down. Eat some crappy food on those days. That's okay. Just, if you want to take care of yourself, just bounce back, You can eat ice cream, but don't eat it 3 days. You know what I mean? 3 times a day, that's not healthy. Similar to everything else in your life, moderation is key. And so go through that shadow work, let yourself feel what you got to feel, and then let it go so that you can find the version of you that makes the most sense. I love you guys so much. I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.